Hey everybody, I have a surprise for you guys. The lesson's done and it's only Monday. I know, I'm surprised too. But I am excited that this week we are going to be kind of beginning to turn the conversation in this series on different, how we've been called to be different, and actually begin talking about things that we're going to actually do. Kind of the first 5 weeks of this series on different has been a lot about like what we're supposed to believe, that we believe that we're worshipers of God, that we believe that we're called to love people, that we believe that we've been called to be holy. These are the things that God has called us to be. And now we're going to talk about how we actually get to do those things. What are the things we tangibly do in order to become the things that God has called us to be? Before I jump into that, just a couple quick things about what's coming up. On July 21st is our worship night. We talked about being worshipers a while back. We practiced being worshipers at summer camp. We want to continue to do that. And then lastly, July 31st is our leader training. It'll happen from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at the church. And that is for leaders who are returning as well as leaders who are brand new. And so just kind of have that, if you would have that date circled on your calendar, I'd love for you to come and attend, hear about kind of as we're retooling and gearing up for the fall and kind of launching again after our kind of hiatus throughout the summer. What's going to be the same, what's going to be different on Sundays and Wednesdays. Love for you to come July 31st here at the church. All right, so this week we're going to be talking about rest, or as the Bible calls it, Sabbath. And in the lesson, you're going to notice that I refer to it as practicing the Sabbath. And that's because I believe, through some study I've done through seminary, some books that I've read, that Sabbath is something that we are supposed to practice. It's a thing to live out. Sabbath literally means, it comes from the Hebrew word Shabbat, which means to rest or to take a break. And so we are to, God created us as physical creatures, and he demonstrated for us that he took a break from his creation on the seventh day. And we are to take a break to create a natural rhythm in which we work and then we enjoy the fruit of our labor. We work and we enjoy the fruit of our labor. We enjoy God. We work and then we enjoy. We work and enjoy. One of the biggest misunderstandings about Sabbath is that it's a requirement for the Israelites to restrict them in some capacity or force them to bow down and worship God. But really, in reality, it's an opportunity to rest and enjoy the presence of God, the fact that God is settled with us, as well as to reflect and to hope for the future. And so in that, what I've done is the lesson is a little not confusing, but it's a little all over the place because I think it's important to understand why the Bible teaches us that we're supposed to have the Sabbath. And so to do that, I have an opening activity that is something that I have not planned. I'm encouraging you to plan it, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to do something that is super, super fun. Do something different. If you normally do food, involve some type of game, or make it some kind of better food. If you don't do food, add food. Do something that would be something special, that would be a surprise for your students. You can even text your students ahead of time and say, hey, I've got something special. I can't wait to share it with you this Sunday. Plan something that is just super special, some kind of special element. You guys are super creative. I know you're going to kill it. But then I give kind of the big idea for the day, and that is that Jesus calls us to be different by regularly, and this is key, regularly resting and enjoying Jesus and his creation. It's supposed to be regular. It's supposed to be ongoing. In the Old Testament, it says, do it on the seventh day. When Jesus rose from the dead, the church began kind of moving their Sabbath, their day of reflecting and enjoying God, to Sundays because it's the day that Jesus rose from the grave. And so that's why we moved our Sabbath from a Saturday to a Sunday, because Sunday is the day that Jesus rose from the grave. And the church that follows and believes in Jesus continues to practice their Sabbath regularly on the day that Jesus rose from the grave to help us start our week thinking about God. And so we're to regularly rest, take a break from, stop, pause, think about later, rest, and enjoy. This is so key. This is maybe the most important element of the lesson, is to help our students know that we're to enjoy both Jesus and his creation. And as we're going to see, it's not that we just stop doing everything. We're not allowed to do anything. Some denominations actually still have laws that you're not allowed to cook food because that would involve work. So you have to eat cold food. I talked with a group of Seventh-day Adventists kids and they said they're only allowed to watch Christian movies because they have to think about Jesus. And so rather than thinking about the Sabbath as things that we have to do, think about it as things that we get to enjoy. We get to enjoy Jesus and his presence and the fact that he's with us, but we also enjoy his creation. The Sabbath is meant for us to enjoy it with food and fellowship and with people and do the things that we love, whether that's reading books or playing sports or going for walks or whatever it is. It's meant for us to enjoy the day and enjoy what God has made for us. What I've done is I've attached and I've saved in the Planning Center. You can find it under the first tab in Planning Center, a video from the Bible Project. If not, you can YouTube it, Bible Project Sabbath. And in basically 5 minutes, they do a really great job of overviewing what does Scripture teach about the Sabbath? Why did God give it to us? And what are we supposed to do with that? What's the end point of it? And they go through some different Bible passages. High schoolers, I'm going to encourage you to actually then go back and read some of those Bible passages. I've included them in the lesson. Middle schoolers, I'm going to encourage you to go straight to our main teaching, which is based out of Matthew 12. And so real quick, if middle schoolers, you can skip over this lesson, but high school leaders, we're going to be diving into Genesis 2 and look at when God rested from creating everything on the seventh day. And there's some really good discussion questions about, why do we rest? And do students feel like they have something that they need to rest from? And do they feel like they have a good rhythm of work and rest in their life? Like, is there a rhythm of I work now and I rest this time? And then we're also going to be reading, high schoolers, in Exodus 20 verses 8 through 10, where God, after they've been led out of, that they've broken the covenant, they've been kicked out of the Garden of Eden, they've been in slavery, and so God leads them into the desert and gives them the 10 commandments. And one of those commandments is that they need to Sabbath. And so I think there's some really good discussion questions there under this idea of Exodus, like, do we need to Sabbath? There's an illustration that I heard from a pastor named Pastor Robert Madu, and I've actually quoted him in the lesson. But he talks about a tweet that he read by Elon Musk, where Elon said that he's working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and people are still calling me lucky. And his point in that is that a lot of people saw that tweet and were like, yeah, that's right. You hustle, you grind, you never let up, you always work. And if you work, you'll be successful. But the thing is like, if you work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, there's no time to Sabbath, there's no time to rest. And if that's the case, is working hard and being worldly successful, is that what we're supposed to focus on? This worldly success. And I love what Pastor Robert Madu says. He says, taking a Sabbath takes the focus off your hustle and places it on the God who is working out things for you. You stop thinking about just you, but you start thinking about what God's been doing. And the pause of the Sabbath helps give glory to the one who made it possible. And so that might be helpful. And you're kind of understanding like why God told us to Sabbath. So finally, our main text or our main teaching comes out of Matthew chapter 12, in which Jesus gets into kind of a scuffle with the Pharisees when he and his disciples begin eating. They began plucking heads of grain. How in the world is that not okay? I don't know. But they began working by plucking heads of grain to eat, as well as eating the bread in the synagogue. And the Pharisees get super mad at Jesus. And his main comment, the main thing is that he says, like, look, I am the Lord over the Sabbath. In fact, in the book of Mark, he says that the Sabbath, that man was not made for the Sabbath, but rather Sabbath was made for man, indicating that God wanted man to rest. He wanted him to stop and to pause and to reflect and to think and to enjoy. And so one of the key questions is, how does thinking about Jesus help a person to rest? When you stop to think about Jesus, who he is, what he's done, his place in your life, how does that help a person to rest? And where I really want the students to kind of go with that is to understand, like, when I stop to think about Jesus and I think about his lifestyle, man, he paused, he took a break, as well as he offers rest and enjoyment for me. In fact, it says in Matthew chapter 11, come to me all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And so Jesus wants to give us rest. Again, we've been created to be different because we regularly rest and enjoy Jesus and his creation. So all of this, that's kind of the teaching of the Sabbath, but how are we going to apply this? That's great to know. What are we going to do? And so at the very end of the lesson, I've included an application. It's how to Sabbath. And when we read through the text, what we find out is that the text really emphasizes the purpose of the Sabbath. It doesn't really tell us the rules to observe it. The Pharisees gave over 39 different rules for it, but Jesus and the scriptures don't necessarily tell us do this, don't do that, other than it says like don't work. So how do we do this? How do we intentionally stop, pause, reflect, and enjoy God and his creation? And so I've included 5 ingredients. These are not things that you have to do, but 5 ways you can practice this resting in the Sabbath to enjoy. The first is that you can stop your work. Your normal work, your normal tasks, they can wait till tomorrow. Stop your work. So it's kind of like, what's my normal work look like? What is that? Maybe it's your schoolwork, maybe it's a job that you have, maybe it's normal chores you do, maybe it's just things that you have to do around your house and around your community. Stop your normal work. Secondly, be in community and in the presence of God. This is that idea of, it could be going to church, being with people who are godly, who are Jesus, and are going to point you to God. And then also being in the presence of God, worshiping God, singing to God, hearing from God's word, letting someone teach you the things of God. That's what we do. That's why we gather together and do life groups, is because we're practicing being in the presence of God together. But we are to be in community. God wanted us to be in community on the Sabbath. Thirdly, delight in heaven and earth. Find things that are enjoyable. Do things that are refreshing, that give you life. Now, one key thing, they're going to give you life and help you be more godly. So for some people, playing video games might actually be a way to delight in heaven and earth. But here's the thing, if playing video games all day causes me to get really grumpy and irritated, then that's probably not the best way to practice Sabbath. Does that make sense? So just think about, maybe help your students think about that. It's not just about doing the things that you love, but what are the things that are going to draw, that give you life and help you become more like God? And I do believe that there are things that are fun and exciting and enjoyable that don't necessarily lead to sin. Fourthly, extend the grace of God to others. Maybe that's giving back. Maybe that's serving someone else or talking to someone about Jesus. And finally, the last ingredient is that you can remember, reflect, and rejoice in God's hand in your life. Pause to think about what happened last week and how has God moved in your week, and thank him for it. And then also think about the upcoming week. How do you need God to help you? So what you're going to do is, with these 5 ingredients, what I want you to do is lead your group to build their own Sabbath. I would encourage them to write these down, type them out, and work in these either by themselves or in a group, but to reflect on each of these elements and how they might use them, and then construct their own idea of what a Sabbath might look like. Starting with, hey, maybe that looks like I'm going to get up later because sleeping in helps me. I'm going to go to church because that's where my friends are and that's where I'm going to experience, community with God. I want to delight in heaven and earth. I want to go out to eat because I don't normally get to do that. And I want to eat this kind of food. I want to extend the grace of God. How do I want to serve someone else in my Sabbath? And then, before the end of the day, I want to take 20 minutes and I just want to write down, what did God do this past week, and help me kind of see what's going on, as well as maybe make a list of things I have coming up and pray through those and ask God for help. However that looks, have your students kind of build their own Sabbath. They can work on that as a group and then share it with the rest of the group. Then I want you to conclude the lesson by praying together and thanking God for one thing he did this past week, and asking him for help with at least one thing you have coming up. Why? Because it's important to remember, reflect, and rejoice in what God has done for us. This helps us to practice Sabbath, which is regularly resting and enjoying Jesus and his creation. I hope this is helpful, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do this week. I'm praying for you, and I pray that you are praying for me and for each other and for our students. And I'll see you guys this week.